Welcome to the Daily Actor Podcast. I'm Lance Carter, and in this episode, I'm at South by Southwest. Okay, technically, I'm not at South by Southwest right now. I'm in my office surrounded by my 2 cats and my dog, but I was at South by, and while I was there, I talked to Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Leland Orser. They were in town for their new film, False. It's about a woman named Claire, played by Mary Elizabeth, who's in a mysterious cult. Her parents find Ansel Roth, played by Leland, who's the world's foremost authority on cults and mind control, to try and deprogram her. We talked about the film and one 12-page long scene, working with their spouses, and horrible auditions. And here's a couple plugs. If you need a website, casting director, mailing labels, career coaching, list of headshot photographers in your area, we've got all of that and more. Check out dailyactor.com. And now, here's Mary Elizabeth and Leland.
So obviously I haven't seen the movie,
Yes,
but
neither have I.
we have something in common. So I'm going to ask the worst question in the world, but can you guys tell me about the movie and your characters real quick?
You start.
Well, I think it's a black comedy, is what I'm saying it is. Although at first I thought it was a thriller. I play a down on his luck cult deprogrammer, psychologist, I think. And I am essentially, when you meet my character Ansel Roth, I'm so down on my luck. I've lost everything. I've lost my family. I've lost my house. I've lost my career, and I'm essentially living out of my car. And that's when you come into the picture.
Yes, well, I play a character named Claire, who's in a cult, and my parents come to Leland's character because he's, as he's, I think, already said, the sort of an expert on cults and mind control and deprogramming. And even though he hasn't done deprogramming in quite some time, they convince him, because they're going to pay him, to kidnap me and deprogram me. So there's sort of my character's qualities and things. She's sort of mysterious, and I don't really want to give too much about it away, so I kind of keep that part of it simple.
With that, did you sort of research anything sort of cult-like people who've been from cults? I mean,
yeah, I think Leland and I both read Ted Patrick's book, or one of Ted Patrick's book, which was Let Our Children Go. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Which was great. And he is sort of one of the people in this time period of the 70s kind of cult boom that loosely inspired Leland's character. So that was a great book to read. And I tried to watch a lot of videos on YouTube, whatever I could find specifically from that era of people in cults or people who had just gotten out of cults, because there was something, I think, about that time period that was so specific, with the way people were just sort of falling like flies into these, cults, and sort of the youth, particularly why they were so attracted to that idea was interesting to me.
do you guys do, I mean, not only for this, but for other roles, a lot of research, and do you guys do backstories and things like that for parts?
I do, yeah, very much so. I after Riley and I met, we went into production very, very shortly after that, like a month or two, not even 2 months. But and so I went home and started immediately. Reading, watching. Now we have the luxury of watching, so much stuff on the internet, and I think backstory is vital, especially in this, because my backstory was so important to who I had become. So you need to know all of that to bring, your present state onto film.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not in the script, you find it completely helpful, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, actually, for me, was in the script.
Yes.
And for you, too.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was sort of, it's so hard to talk about my character without...
You can spill the beans, it's all right.
I had to come up with a few different kind of backstories to work for different parts of the film.
Okay.
Just to work for whatever emotional state she's in, because she goes to a lot of different places. So, there was one through line that it was the sort of her arc that I had in mind, but I would have different stories.
Well, there's like personalities of before the cult, personalities or in the cult, and personalities after the cult.
Yes.
You know, so she's like literally 3 different characters.
That's a great way to put my character. That's what was so complicated about her, was that she really is like 3 people in one, and so each scene, and shooting somewhat out of order, was kind of like, okay, who is she?
Where am I now?
Where's her frame of mind?
What level? Yeah.
So it was really challenging, but really, really fun.
And you need to have all of that very clear in your mind, and for me, very clear on the page, on the script, in my notes, so that on any given day, depending on what you're shooting, you know at what level you're at, you know at what degree you're at, you know. So, got to keep that very clear.
I saw this was an 18-day shoot.
Yeah.
Was it 18?
I think
20? Yeah. Do you guys like those fast, quick-paced wham bams?
I do.
If you've done your homework, yeah. You have to do your homework, though. You get lazy on big films, you know, because you can. There's so much.
You know, one line in a day or
about
something.
Being lazy,
right?
And you're like, it's just a cycle of like. And on this, it's like there's just no room for being lazy at all. You just
train has left the station, and it's.
Which is an exciting kind of energy for everybody to have, I think. You know, everybody, the whole crew, the whole cast, everybody's kind of on their toes the whole time because it's moving so quickly.
Yeah, it's dangerous. You got to make your day. You got to get out of that location. You're pinching every penny, because every penny is going into what you're going to see up there, not into how nice your accommodations are. And you know, you want to make it work for everybody, especially for people who are paying to make. To make good film.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys rehearse prior, or?
No, I think
we were going to.
We talked about it, and then it just sort of never happened. But I think we both agreed that we wanted.
We met.
We met.
That's always a good thing. Yeah.
But I think we both had talked about that we're not big on rehearsing what we're actually going to do on the day. I think we wanted to talk about it more so than rehearse it.
Yeah.
And we had planned on doing some form of rehearsal, which we never ended up doing.
There's one very, very, very long, very involved scene in the film.
Yes.
It's like 12 pages long, and Riley had talked about rehearsing it. Mm-hmm. And you know, we were both. I was open to that, but I was also, reluctant to do that, because I feel that if you can rehearse in front of a camera and have a camera rolling, and actually have that be your first take, there's things that possibly you can get
that are the most exciting things potentially. Yeah.
Fresh and real and of the moment.
A 12-page scene.
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
He's got to go to some crazy places in it. It's pretty amazing.
That's got to be an intense. Was it just a full day of that?
I think it was scheduled to be a full day, and we did it in half a day, didn't we?
I don't even remember.
Yeah,
it was looming. It was one of those things that looms.
Yes, for both of us the whole time.
Scares you, and you're trying to, okay, well, at least we're not in that week yet, and now we're in that week, at least it's not tomorrow, and that was a very, very scary prospect.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned something about doing films like this and like big, huge movies. I would imagine, like, when you're doing a big movie, like, you can just walk in and, these are my lines today? Okay. As opposed to this, you're like, boom, you're kind of like a week before shooting, a couple weeks before shooting, you're just like hammering all the stuff into your head.
On a big movie, you've got to put in that same homework. I mean, you do, because it's all going to end up there. And if you haven't put in the homework, you haven't put in the work, it's going to show. So you got to do it. On a big movie, you have more time to do that. And you have more time to sit around and question your choices.
Overthink things. I think that's the scary thing about on big movies is. On these smaller ones, you do the homework and then you do it. But on the bigger ones, you do the homework and then you sit around and you think about the homework and you think about, maybe I should do it this way, maybe I should do it this way. Oh no, I was the wrong decision. I should have. It's like you have so much time to stress out about it that it can be hard to keep things just natural and fresh.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the challenge. Often is not over preparing. I think for when you have a lot of time.
Yep.
Now your husband is the director, and Leland, you directed a movie, Morning.
I did.
Which I saw at San Diego Film Festival, and I thought it was terrific.
Thank you.
And you directed your wife.
Yes.
I'm curious, working with your spouses, I just got married, and I can't even imagine. I love seeing her at 5:30 when she gets home.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. It's especially some movies, as I would assume this one is, and obviously Morning was. How was it working with your spouses?
I mean, I think Leland's film was such a specific. They had to deal with an issue that was so emotional that I can't imagine what that must have been like. For the two of them to work on something that was so kind of close to an issue that could be for a couple who has a child would be so. I mean, that to me is just so daunting. So I think taking away that element of it for us kind of just made it was just really fun. And really kind of easy.
Yeah. They're very good together.
It was kind of awesome.
She's so supportive of him, and it'll break your heart. I mean, honestly, she did everything he asked her to do, and did it, so well. They were wonderful together. And, we talked about this before we started, because Gene and I had just come out of doing, and we only realized in hindsight what kind of a dangerous move it had been, and how it could really disrupt our personal lives. And it remains to me as one of the highlights of my life is the period of time that we spent working together. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys.
Yeah, and it was so cool at the end at the wrap. We had so many crew members suddenly being like, wait, you guys are together? Because we suddenly were like hanging out, and we had like a little wrap party, and we were hugging and stuff. And we just said that it wasn't purposeful. We didn't go into it and say like, we are not going to touch each other. You do not look at me. You do not say anything. We just naturally kind of fell into this sort of professional mode of director actress, and there wasn't, and also just on that kind of film, there's not time to like go over and be like, hey honey, like give me a kiss before the next scene. It's just like, no, get to work.
But you came into this as a professional, having worked, on so many different things for so many years. You come into a set, that's your job. You know your job, and you're trained and used to doing your job and fulfilling your job. You don't fuck around with that situation, And Riley is a great director. I mean, he has a vision. He knows what he wants. It's very specific. He knows when he gets it and when he sees it, and beyond that, that's very easy for an actor.
It's very easy to trust. That's why, I mean, I think, a lot of people would be like, oh no, you guys are working together, and we both kind of knew it was going to be easy, because he's such a specific director. I like what he does so much that it's so easy for me to just be like, yeah, totally get it, I'm going to do that. There was nothing to argue about. It wasn't like I didn't trust his vision and I needed to argue against it or anything like that. It was just very easy to kind of want to make what he saw in his mind come to fruition, and that was my goal, which is kind of always my goal on anything. So it was nice just to get to have him around, and to not be separated from me. Normally when I'm working, it's like however long the shoot is, I just don't see him at all. So it was really nice, and also it was really nice to get to see him like doing his thing. It was like I felt very proud, which was really cool.
Leland, are you going to direct again?
I am.
Nice.
When?
I hope soon.
So you got something planned, and
I have
mom's the word.
I have something. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. I thought your film was terrific. Yeah.
Thank you. It's very different from that.
Yeah. Not something like I want to jump off a bridge and
right.
No. It's good. No, it'll be great, and neither Gene or I will be in it, and so that's good. That's something we did, and that's done, and we'll never be able to replace that. It was an extraordinary gem of an experience. Now on to, I think acting and directing don't go hand in hand.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did you like that?
If I were to ever do it again, I mean, I wouldn't ever take back what it is that we did, but the moment that you step out from behind a camera, you lose control, and a director has to be in control at all times. And when you're acting, you are completely out of control, because you're taken over by this character that you're playing. So they just don't go together. So in essence, somebody else is directing your film when you're when you're not, standing at the monitor. So it was great, and don't get me wrong, and I took lots of steps to make that work, And my best friend was my stand-in. He, I knew exactly what I was going to do, I knew exactly where I was going to do it, but I wouldn't necessarily do it again.
I would think if I was directing myself and I sort of go back and look at playback, I'd be like, all right, guys, you were great, but I blinked really weird in this scene. Can we do it again?
Yeah.
I would just be like focusing on myself.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a jackass. So, but that's me.
Wait, did you watch playback?
No.
I never watched
There were a
playback.
couple of like really cool shots that, Riley would say, like, go watch this.
Yeah.
But almost never.
No, I chose not to on this, and I have in the past, but this was just, I felt like it just had to be jump in and go,
Yeah, it's hard, I think, on films of this size to, on some films, especially with like bigger actors, they want to stop and look at every take and all of that, and if you have the time for that and that's a useful tool for them, that can be great, but on a movie like this, it's just like, if you like it, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, so I only got 2 more questions. We have it's an acting website. So, what is your like nightmare audition stories?
Oh man! Oh, I know I've had them. Oh, I mean, I have kind of a nightmare meeting story from kind of recently where, and it was a very famous director. Well, actually, I'm going to do a different one because it was an audition, and it was also kind of recently. Another very famous director who had a picture of me that was the casting agent he printed out that was like 10 years old. And he looked at me, and I told him I was from North Carolina, and he goes, "Oh, so you've been eating a lot of that North Carolina cooking, I see. Gained a little weight since this picture."
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Did you just get up and leave?
I just laughed because he's a director that you kind of know. It's a little bit, you kind of know when you go into that room that he's probably going to say something crazy. So I just laughed and I was like, yeah, definitely been eating a lot of that North Carolina food. And just like went into the audition. But it was just one of those things where you just were like, you just want to the audition just to be like a big fuck you, and then just get out the door. It was kind of, it was more funny to me than anything because I just thought it was such a ridiculous thing to say to somebody.
I have 2 stories, and I'm wondering if it's cool to tell either of them. But I remember when I went to meet John Carpenter on Escape from LA, and all of a sudden I was really nervous, or I was tired, or I was hungover, or something, and I had really bad cotton mouth. And we were on a studio lot or something somewhere, and I'm sitting outside this office. He's in there, and his assistant had a desk, and on the desk was a big thing of red vines. And there was nobody around. I thought, and I was eyeing the red vines, and they weren't coming to get me. So I went over and I just grabbed a red vine. I stuck it in my mouth, and it wasn't working. So I grabbed another one, and I grabbed like 2 or 3 of them, and I'm just like stuffing it in my mouth, trying to get some sort of fluid, and they came out to get me, and I had a mouthful of fucking red vines. And I went in and sat down, and he started asking me questions, and I'm like, what the fuck do? I have a mouthful of licorice, and I can't spit it out, and I can't talk. And so I sat there and I chewed it, and it took me like 2 minutes to chew it. And anyway, it was extremely embarrassing, but in some way it worked. I ended up getting the movie. I think just because he felt sorry for me. It's not a very good one, but I've had
so many
producers'
kind of
fucking cell phones ring in the middle of a screen test,
That's great.
And take the call.
Right.
No.
Yeah, while you're in the middle of the scene.
I've had that happen to me on commercial auditions. That's always good.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Not for the faint of heart.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
not at all.
Yeah. And then just my final question, what's your sort of basic advice to actors?
Oh my gosh. I always say, for me, just to act where you can, whenever you can, as much as you can, and just focus on trying to be a good actor. And I think that's all you need. I think, like when I first started acting, I had so many, I would go to all these workshops, and it was so much about like the business, and you have to have this kind of headshot, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to do these kind of people. And I just feel like I've learned that nothing matters but being a good actor. Literally, none of it matters but being a good actor. And if you just focus on that, the other stuff will fall into place.
And watch everything. Watch everybody. Go to the theater, watch television, watch movies, see what people are doing and what you want to do and what you think you can do. And when you figure out what it is that you think you can do, then focus on that. And and also, never take no for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys, and thank you for listening. Keep coming back to Daily Actor for more great interviews, news from film, TV, and theater, and so much more. Follow me on Twitter at Daily Actor and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/dailyactor. Thanks for supporting the advertisers. I'm Lance, and I'll talk to you soon.